So, Grant, I think that last week we probably heard on the website from every person at Rage Select. Like, I had a podcast with Aaron, I had a podcast with John, I had a podcast with Kevin, I had a podcast with Jason. I didn't have a podcast with you.
No.
So I need you here on the podcast.
I wasn't here last week.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, I missed out.
You were in sunny Florida.
Florida.
Swimming with the dolphins and doing
hanging out with the shady folk who have monkeys rip off their faces and like cocaine everywhere.
What? Is that what happens in Florida?
Florida's fucked up.
I mean, I know Florida's fucked up, but
that didn't happen to me. But
okay, I was like, is this?
I stayed at a lovely beach, and yeah, I don't know. I laid low from that.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Rage Select podcast. We're going to do a little, this is going to be our normal podcast, so we're going to do a little BS and we're going to do a little game news. We're going to do some questions from y'all. And yeah, so, okay. So you did not witness any monkeys directly ripping off anybody's faces?
No.
What was the craziest?
But I'm confident it happened near me in the vicinity.
What was the nuttiest thing that you saw when you were in Florida, Grant?
I saw some nuts.
You saw
the nuttiest thing? Yeah, I was out of the beach, so yeah, dude's just testicles hanging out all over the place.
What?
It's like old people go to the beach, you know. They're all retired. They have the luxury.
They don't have to wear swim trunks anymore.
They do. When you get old, those balls they start sagging more and more.
So what you're saying is that there should be some kind of legislation to make old people wear way longer swim trunks.
Old dudes need to wear pants at this point.
Just full on slacks like skater jeans or whatever.
Yeah, what are you doing? You should have to wear burqas.
Okay, well, did you ride a jet ski?
I didn't.
Did you?
I tried surfing.
Did you?
I did.
How'd that go?
It was miserable.
Yeah, did you manage to stand up at all?
I rented the surfboards for me and my nephews for 2 hours. So three of us for 2 hours. And I was like, oh yeah, I got the money. I'll support you guys. You want to do this? And they're skater types.
Yeah.
So I thought you guys should be able to transition to doing a surfboard. They were out before I was.
They're the exact same thing, right? Skateboarding and surfing.
I figured there's similar mechanics. It's an ability to have a strong sense of balance.
Right. Standing upright on a rectangle.
There's a lot more to it than that.
Okay.
And I think we lasted about 25 minutes of my 2 hours. I lost a bunch of money on that.
Really?
It sucked.
Why you didn't just force yourself to stay out there and have a miserable time?
I tried. One of my nephews broke a tooth surfing.
What?
The other one was just physically exhausted, and I was like, "Hey, we can take these boards back with us to the other beach, and maybe we still have an hour and a half. We can maybe find time to use it there." And I looked at them and they were wrecked, and I was like, "Fine, never mind."
Okay, so I've never been surfing before, Grant. What is board wax for? What do you use board
grip?
wax? For grip?
Because the water splashing over there, wax makes a nice surface for your feet to jump on there, and you don't just slip and fall right back on your ass.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I really have any interest in ever surfing in my life. I'll tell you the last time, I mean, it was years ago when I was a teenager that I went to Florida when my grandparents lived there.
Yeah.
And we did jet skis.
Man.
Jet skis are so
skis
fun.
Seem awesome, and they seem just like the trashy hillbilly thing that Kenny Powers would do, and that you do in Florida when you're there.
Right.
And I didn't do it.
You did, or what about an airboat in the swamps?
Man, yeah.
Gator wrastling or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Archer? That would be awesome.
Going on a rampage.
That's right. Well, that sounds, I mean, when did you got back? You've been back in town a week, right?
Yeah, I've been back.
Okay.
So
did you get a chance? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but did you look at anything from E3? Did you catch any highlights? Okay.
Video games, blah. Am I right?
Yeah.
I saw some headlines here and there. I saw that there was some Payday 2 thing that came out.
Oh, yeah, the DLC.
You mentioned me a couple of the other games that were kind of some big announcements you were excited for.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we've got a few things that are kind of left over from E3 to go over today.
Okay.
But you know what? I have to relate the story.
Okay.
So yesterday, by the time this goes up, people have seen it. Yesterday, Jason and I recorded a huge block of our new sequential Saturday, right?
Oh, yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 3. And I decided that I was going to try to drink one beer for every episode that we did.
Yeah, you were telling me about your grand experiment here. How'd that go?
It was fine. I mean, the thing is that we were playing a game that, okay, so we were playing a game that I'm intimately familiar with, right? That's not a super hard game to begin with.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really that bad. There were a couple times where I got all fucked up, but the thing is that I feel like we like the minute that we stopped recording was when the waves finally started hitting me, right? You know, because we're doing 30-minute recordings and you drink one beer and finish this one. So it's like as soon as we turned off the recording, I was like, woo, I'm lit. And I was like, well,
let me take my shirt off.
I want to go out, right? Like I walked my dog and then I was like, I'm like half a Friday night here. I want to go finish this shit. It was Thursday.
You gotta keep this party rolling.
So I went with Brian Salisbury down to our local watering hole over here by my house, and I actually ran into a couple of guys who work for this local game studio that actually is the studio that made the HD version of Metal Gear that we're playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we hung out with these guys for a little while, and one of them, he's like the director of the studio. He was there, and like he's worked on all this stuff.
How'd you just happen? Did you recognize him?
No, well, I don't know if we were talking about games or what. I mean, because you got to remember, I was like 5 beers in when I showed up to
talking
the bar.
about video games, eh?
Right.
I heard your conversation from across the bar.
Right. Well, it was funny because it was this dude and his friend, right?
Yeah.
And his friend was like super into the World Cup, and so Brian and him started talking World Cup, and then I started talking with this guy about video games. And it's one of those things. Okay, Grant, I don't know if this has happened to you in Austin. It probably hasn't. But, you know, in Austin, I know a lot of people who are either directly involved with video game studios or tertiarily involved with like hardware studios and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'll meet them out for drinks, right? And we'll get blasted. And right around like 1:30 in the morning, they will start telling me things. They will start telling me things that I'm not supposed to know. And I go,
yeah,
motherfucker, I cannot use any of this because, like, it's just too easy to.
So tell me some of the stuff you told.
I can't, man. I could say that it's super exciting.
Okay,
I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. How about this?
Yeah.
The mics are off now.
No,
so go ahead and tell me.
I control them. I can see. I'm sitting like 1 foot.
Okay. Shit. Okay.
Did
Close your eyes.
Use the force.
Close your eyes.
I'm not closing my eyes.
Now they're off.
Okay, now they're off. No,
it's just you and me.
No,
all right.
It was
fine.
I mean, like before the PlayStation 4.
That's such a cock tease.
I know.
To do to our audience.
I know. But before like the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 came out, like I had friends that worked in hardware places that had direct access to like hardware specs, and they were just telling me about it.
Did this
guy
make you swear to secrecy? Or are you just kind of operating by the code of common drunk decency?
Yeah, definitely that. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird, and
maybe he wanted you to know. You must have relayed that you do video game stuff before that, right?
I did.
Then he was trying to throw you a bone.
No,
and maybe he wants you to tell it.
I can't, man.
All right,
I can't. I'm sorry to you listeners because I know the
worst story ever.
I know. But at the end of the night, I'm going to tell you this. At the end of the night, we were all sitting there. We were all like super hammered, right? And it was touch and go there for a minute whether this whole party was going to go to a strip club. And it was a good thing that like the one guy there who was the least drunk of us all was like, I don't have anything to do with this. You guys have a good night or whatever. And it was kind of like, all right, fine. Let's just
call back to sobriety.
Let's go to gyms. Let's get the breakfasts, you know. So yeah. And
well, did you exchange numbers? You gonna go out on another date with these guys?
Yeah. I gave one of the dudes my number, and I don't know. I mean, they seemed like pretty cool dudes. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe so. But yeah, it was a weird happenstance. That's one of the weird things about Austin is that you can just be hanging out at a place, and like I've had a number of times where I'm talking about video games. Somebody will walk up and they'll say, "Oh, are you talking about video games?" Be like, yeah. And they'll be like, "What are you doing?" Talking about Rage Select, and they're like, "Oh, well, I work for this company." And then about 1:30, they start telling me stuff that I shouldn't fucking know, and I'm just like, I really wish that you wouldn't tell me these things. But yeah, so I'm also
a
little hungover today. I'm not sure, like for Metal Gear, whether we should start next time with like I'll do 3 shots before we start, like just bam, 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 and then start and then go, right?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
But I'm
and just wait until it starts kicking in halfway through.
I'm so worried about it, especially because one of the segments that we recorded, and this will be after the first one has gone up, but I think that the second one, because it's a Metal Gear game, when we got done recording, I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, that entire episode was a cutscene. We didn't actually play any of the game.
Yeah, I've done a couple of those with you.
Yeah,
cutscene playthrough. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're gonna have to. The problem is that that we're recording these in giant blocks, right? So if I put up one and everybody's just like, oh, I'm like, I've got like 12 of these. I can't. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know. We'll see. This podcast is going to go up after it's gone up. So
I'm sure they're gonna love it.
Maybe so.
And if so, we're just gonna have to adopt a new show that's a drinking and video game heavily intensive.
Oh Jesus!
Challenge. The drunk playathon.
That's. I was so drunk that I came home and I put on my headphones and I was listening to Spotify and I took my dog out. And then I came back and I laid down on the couch. I just fell asleep listening to Spotify on the couch. It was terrible. Anyway, this is a really stupid story, but you know what? That's what happened to me last week because the week before it was just nothing but E3. That was all it was.
Yeah.
And sending my friend off to prison, which maybe I should tell that story briefly. I don't know. I've told it before, Grant, but
I feel like you mentioned it. Like you mentioned it on the live show, and you mentioned it on our Last of Us. But I don't know if you've told anyone like on the podcast.
Yeah, all right. You know what? I'll run it down real fast because when we were doing the live show, somebody asked about it, and I just assumed everybody already knew. But a friend of mine, I've mentioned before, who's a terrible, terrible alcoholic. He's the one who lives in the house that's full of garbage, like a hoarder.
Yeah.
Except it's just garbage. Like he's told me that I couldn't get into his house because he has to turn sideways, and he's like a skeleton man. Right, and the
I love how you describe your friend in the most terrible light possible.
These are the he would tell you the same things. This
is as flattering as I can be to the guy.
he's lived in this place. The front door doesn't lock anymore. He's gone through like 3 Texas summers without air conditioning. There isn't a functional toilet in his domicile. Right?
Come on.
No, seriously. Like it.
Where does he shit?
At the Wendy's down the street when he goes to get Wendy's.
Oh no!
Anyway, this guy he drinks and before he started drinking, he was he still is a really smart dude, but like super mega ultra smart. But he's really concerned with just getting his drink on every day, all day long. So eventually, he got a DUI. As was bound to happen, right? When you spend every day of the week like balls deep in a 16-pack, right? That's going to happen eventually. So he decided, because of the way that he lives, and he doesn't really have much of a job, or he's qualified to make like $70K a year, right? But he gets so bored and fed up with the jobs that he has that he'll just quit. He'll just be like, "Fuck it, I don't even want to do this anymore."
Sounds like this guy is impulsive as well.
Yeah, well, sort of. I mean, I've told him like the amount of money that you make in a year, it would be like 0.2% of what you make in a month to hire some people to come and fucking shovel out your house and fix your air conditioner and your toilet, right?
Yeah.
So he got a DUI and he basically decided, I don't want to go through the probation, have an interlock installed, community service, you got fines, you got all these things. Because the options when you get a DUI, at least here in Austin, are you can either do all of those things or you go to jail. So he was like, I just going to want to go to jail. So the default sentencing I think that he had was like 6 to 9 months, out in 3 to 5.
Now, here's what
behavior.
I'm curious about, because I've heard this before, your story. You mentioned that you're like, oh, it's a good thing because it'll help dry him out. Does he recognize that as a good thing that'll help dry him out?
I don't think he's hit anywhere near the point in his life. He's not had the moment of clarity, right? He has not had. There is nothing in
time to kind of reflect on sobriety and.
No, the thing is that he's smart enough to know what he is doing, but he's made his peace with it. So until something kind of catastrophic happens, I'm pretty sure he'll go to jail, he'll dry out, he'll get out of jail, he'll go right back to drinking.
I mean, for a lot of people, you might say that's rock bottom where he's hit. But you're also kind of hinting at, no, there's room for more rock bottom for this guy.
I don't really know. I mean, I've tried talking with him about it, and to me, it seems for me it's been a look through one of my friends at addiction in a way that I haven't ever seen before, where it's just like he has got to do this. He's just get drunk. Like that's what he does. It's what he wants to do. And when he doesn't do it, he doesn't like being up or awake or life or anything like that. But anyway, that's all really dark. So let's come back to the story. So what happened was he was going to go to jail. He decided to plead guilty and go to jail rather than do all the community service and stuff. So he quit his job immediately, forgetting that it takes like 9 months of legalese to do anything.
Yeah.
So he still had to go to court like 4 or 5 more times to keep pleading guilty. And apparently when you get a DUI and you decide to plead guilty and go to jail, he's told me that most people are so afraid of jail that it's like the court system is flabbergasted that you would choose just to go to jail, because most people will do anything to go out of jail, to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
He just shows up and he's like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go. Like, I don't care. Whatever. Count it.
Jail? That sounds cool.
Yeah. So what happened was that he quit his job immediately, which meant that he spent several months, unemployed while this process was going on. So when they finally got around to actually doing the sentencing for him, he's a first-time offender, and he doesn't have a job. So he's intransigent, I guess is what they would say. So they knocked his sentence down to 60 days in jail, out in 30, and they waived the entire DUI fine, which I think is somewhere between $6,000 and $9,000.
So it was a pretty good call for him to quit his job.
At the end of the day, when you consider, I mean, I've got friends who have had the interlock and the community service and the huge fine and all that stuff. Considering that was the alternative, spending 30 days in prison doesn't seem like a real bad trade-off. Now, for anybody who has a family, friends, self-respect, a place to live, like anything to lose,
Sure.
Right. But we're talking about, my friend is essentially Tyler Durden, right? He doesn't have anything. He doesn't do anything. He's antisocial, so he doesn't like to be around more than like 2 or 3 of me and his friends. He doesn't like talking to other people. It's actually going to be an upgrade in his life, except for the food, about going to prison, because he will have a cell, right, that has air conditioning and a toilet that functions in it. So yeah,
He's moving on up.
Yeah, that's right. And as of this recording, he went in yesterday.
Oh.
So
You gonna be visiting him?
I told him. I think we talked about it on another show. I told him that I would buy an El Camino and mirrored sunglasses and leather jacket to pick him up when he gets out of prison, like we're in a 70s TV show. Anyway, I think I'm repeating myself, so I'm sorry, you guys, if you've already heard that story. But if you hadn't, I mean, there just were people asking about it.
It's fascinating and a little bit different each time I hear it. I hear new details.
So bizarre. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to... We got one piece of non-video game news, and then we're going to go into video game news. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to do questions, and then we'll be done.
All right.
So first up, this came out today. I don't know if you saw this, Grant, that apparently Rian Johnson is going to be the director of Star Wars Episode 8.
And 9, right?
And then I think it says a story consultant on 9.
Oh, is it?
Let's see.
Yeah.
To write and direct Episode 8 and also provide a story treatment for the 9th episode in the series.
Oh.
So
that's a pretty big deal.
that is a big deal.
Rian Johnson of Looper fame. What else did he do?
Brick. Brothers Bloom. I think that's about it, right? I think he's only had those 3 movies.
Yeah. Well, this guy's cool. I mean, I liked Looper for the most part. There's problems in it.
It's a little weak towards the end.
Yeah, it got a little weird, but
yeah. And I really felt like they should have figured out something else besides I never bought that Jogo Lev and Bruce Willis were the same person.
no.
Even with the caveman brow they put on.
I wish they would have
lipstick.
cast some unknowns that looked a lot similar to each other.
But I mean, I thought Brick. People were telling me about Brick for a long time, and I went and watched it. And I thought it was fucking fantastic.
Brick was great.
If you guys haven't seen Brick, I think it's probably still on Netflix. That shit's solid.
Yeah.
You know? But I guess the thing is that Looper is the only sci-fi that we've seen him do, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess. There's certainly a bunch of hype to him doing Looper that had a bunch of people excited.
Mm-hmm.
I think it performed pretty well at the box office, right?
I think so.
Was it a bust? I thought they did it at a pretty good cost.
Yeah, Looper's Brick. Oh yeah, he also remember he guest directed that one episode of Breaking Bad. Remember that?
Yeah,
that was really good.
Ozymandias.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess he did a couple.
Oh yeah, it looks like he did a few.
And he did the Fly.
He did the Fly episode as well. I didn't know that.
Oh man.
And he did an episode of Terriers. But yeah, I mean, the guy seems like he's real solid. It's just I've never seen him do a sci-fi thing. But I'd be willing to bet, right, that with Marvel or with Disney owning it, that he probably will have all of the assistance that he would need to make sure that everything looks the right way and it's paced the right way and stuff like that.
I just don't know what to think of this franchise right now.
Of Star Wars?
Star Wars. It's certainly getting a shit ton of attention. But at the same time, given what the prequels were,
Yeah.
they have to do a lot, I think, to win over a lot of the original fans. I think they burned a lot of bridges. They certainly have a new crop of the younger generation, which maybe they count more at this point, honestly.
Yeah.
They're kind of the young demographic that is going to define what's the hotness. We're old hat. We don't matter.
Well, okay, so for me, I feel like Star Wars hasn't really been talking to me for a long time. That with the prequels and I know people have said the Clone Wars cartoon the CGI one is really good.
It's pretty good.
I haven't really watched it, but it's mostly because there was the prequel stuff really kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and it just got me less excited about Star Wars, especially because it seemed like every other week you were reading George Lucas saying something that just made him seem like a fucking piece of shit, right? It was just like, the original cuts, they don't exist, we destroyed them.
He just took and raped our childhood, and it's like, hey, we still expect you guys to just jump on the bandwagon and love everything about Star Wars. I'm entering this with a lot more trepidation. And
I see. I guess for me, the way that I feel about it is that it's a lot like my relationship with the Jägermeister, Grant. I'm willing to give this new one a shot and see what happens. Right? I've been burned before, but Star Wars has a lot of cachet with me. It's a thing, even if it's not good.
Jaeger has a lot of cash with you.
It does.
Oh, jeez.
I sober Jeff doesn't want to do shots of Jägermeister. Drunk Jeff doesn't really want to do shots of anything else, Grant. So this is a bad metaphor, you guys, by the way. But I guess the thing is that I'm right now. You say, "Hey, there's a new Star Wars movie," and I'm just like, "Okay, let's see."
Sure.
The first trailer that comes out, I'm just going to be like, "What? I just want to see it so bad."
Buster nuts.
Yeah, because they're going to show Harrison Ford and they're going to show C-3PO, and I'm just going to be like, okay, fine.
See, that's another thing I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like that we're going to have to see Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher just like out of their prime but crammed back into this universe. Like,
yeah.
Harrison Ford should be, or not him, Han Solo should be dead in this universe. That's my opinion. It sounded like he actually wanted his character to die in the series, and they kept him alive.
I think, for me, I think that what's a little worrying to me when you talk about that is not necessarily that they have any one of them, it's that they have all three of them. Like, if they had the episode 8 movie, right? Wait, no, this is episode 7, right? This is the next one. And you go through the entire movie with a brand new cast of people, and then like right at the very end, Han Solo walks out just to give a little walk on and like a little like,
which is he's injured for 8 weeks of filming, so
yeah, maybe
that's all we're gonna get.
But I don't want the plot to focus on the three of them really in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
like I'd much rather have them just kind of come on and wave at the camera and be like, "Hi, we're still alive," and I can be like, "Oh, look, it's them," and then like roll credits, done.
Yeah.
Like I want them at the end of Empire standing there on the ship, and then to have Han Solo come up and put his hand on the shoulder of whoever the new protagonist is, and that's all we ever see of him.
See, that would be fine, a little small cameo, but it seems like they're making this. Here's my big issue. It seems like they are trying to appeal. They're trying to do a bunch of fan service rather than what I want them to just do is focus on a good, solid story.
Sure.
Like, don't worry about like all these cool winks and nods and Easter eggs to me because I stuck with the other movies.
Well,
make a great new story?
It's Abrams is directing 7, right?
He did a great job with turning around or revitalizing the Star Trek franchise, but there was a bunch of winks and nods.
A lot of fan service in the Star Trek series.
It was.
If some could maybe make the point that Into Darkness is kind of just one big fan service movie in some ways.
That movie was disappointing.
I kind of liked it, but I have really low expectations for movies. So, But I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I
Yeah.
mean, I find it a little weird that they're going to be switching between directors. I guess I have to film them all at the same time to keep on a even release schedule. But it would seem to me like if J.J. Abrams was doing 7, that he would do like 7, 8, and 9, and that Rian Johnson would do like the Boba Fett spinoff or something.
10, 11, 12, yeah. Sure.
Right. You know. But you know you got to remember about something like this is that when Peter Jackson came in to do Lord of the Rings, and you looked at what he had done before that, he was not the person that I would have chosen to do Lord of the Rings, and yet he did a fucking fantastic job. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Once again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. All right, now on to the video game news. A bunch of people have actually written in to ask me what I think about. They finally released the E3 2014 Phantom Pain demo, which
Of Metal Gear Solid. Was it 5?
Metal Gear Solid 5. It's actually like, you know, in the series it's further down the line than that. But yeah, I watched it, and this is actually like last year they had a trailer that was like this time lapse thing where they would show parts of what's going on here, where I believe he's in the Afghani countryside, and they would show him like walking out on his horse, and they would do like this fast forward thing until he got to some point of interest, and then they would cut over to the next thing, cut over to the next thing. Here it's actually watching somebody play through this particular segment of the game.
And the guy who's playing it, he's good. It's like he knows how to play this character.
Yeah, I think he might have practiced once or twice, Grant.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, when you see something like this, do you think they played it initially and then they did a rehearsal, like of like just reading lines over top, or was he playing it live? That's a dumb question. I didn't see the beginning of this. Like,
no, this is obviously. I mean, this is what you see a lot of times at game shows. Is that this guy has obviously played this sequence of the game over and over and over and over.
So he just kind of knows all the things to do.
And
like,
the guy
I'm
that's
gonna
being the
duck here
announcer, yeah, he's been watching him do it and knows when to kind of say, "Oh, look, here's a guy," or "Here's what he's doing here," and "Here's what he's doing here."
Yeah.
But you know what? I actually liked this quite a bit more because they had just a trailer at E3 for Metal Gear Solid 5. And I thought it was really like super, super dark and kind of disturbing / depressing.
Yeah.
This was what I really wanted to see about the game, because this showed us that we've got a lot of the elements of the Phantom Pain, of Ground Zeroes, mixed with a lot of the stuff from Peace Walker. Like you saw where they put the balloons on the guys and make them go whee.
Yeah. So are they shooting him up for like his own team to like capture?
Yes.
Okay.
What'll happen a lot of times is there's a piece where they show the Mother Base, which is your main base here. We're actually looking at it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you'll actually there's a whole system in Peace Walker that it looks like has been switched over to this game, where you have this base that is staffed with people, and they have mechanics and chefs and R&D and intel and stuff like that. And the way that you staff those departments,
Chefs? Are there chefs? Okay, good.
there was a kitchen staff in Peace Walker, and
That's all I really care about.
and you had to have them because to have more people, you needed a higher kitchen staff to have like more than 50 people. You needed to have more kitchen staff to cook for them. But you get all that stuff by essentially putting it in a balloon and making it go up in the air from the field. So in Peace Walker, you would have missions where there were like a guy that was really good at being a mechanic. So you just go into that mission over and over and keep getting that same guy over and over again so that you could get your mechanic department ranked up. But it shows a lot of the movement and a lot of the traversal stuff from Ground Zeroes, which I thought was really good personally. Mixed with some new stuff. They showed the cardboard box. They showed a bunch of new stuff you can do with the cardboard box that you've never been able to do before. You can pop up out of the top.
The cardboard box.
Yep, staple of the Metal Gear franchise.
So he's just able to take this box around with him, fold it up in his pocket, I guess, and then whip it out whenever?
It's best not to think too hard about these things, Grant.
Well, it's weird because this universe seems like it's trying to be fairly grounded in reality, except for this fucking box.
Well, also you've got the balloons that you're putting on dudes. Like, I mean,
yeah, how's you carrying all that? I don't know.
Fulton recovery system actually is a real thing, as I understand it.
We saw it in
Dark Knight. Yeah, but using it the way that they're using it, like at one point they put the balloons on like a shipping container that goes or a Jeep that goes up in the air.
I like when they show that you can order a special drop and then and we're about to see that actually right now too.
Oh yeah, where you can,
and you'll just drop on some other your enemy's head.
Target, hit him. There's one point where they Fulton a sheep out where they
Jeez.
and then at the back half, I don't know if you saw the end of the demo, is you go back to the mother base at the very end, and when you're there you can actually see, like, there's those guys that I got, there's that Jeep that I got, there's that sheep that I got just wandering around. And what was really cool about that was that while they were there, the mother base actually got attacked, and there was like this idea that as you interact with the different factions of enemies in the game, that you'll develop a reputation with them. And like, so the way that I thought it probably was going to go down, this is just speculation on my part,
Sure.
is like, let's say in the demo that he's using his tranquilizer gun for everybody. He's doing it totally non-lethally. But like, if you were to just come in here with a machine gun and shoot all these guys, then maybe you would develop like a reputation with this faction, where they would then put dudes in helicopters and come out to try to blow your goddamn base up, you know, when you're there. Which has some interesting implications. So I think I'm really excited by this demo. Like, this is more of what I like to see about video games. Is I like to see them play the games.
Yeah. Because
I've played enough games that when I see you play a game, trailers can totally fucking lie, but it's hard to lie about this kind of stuff. So it seems like it seems like also a very large game.
Yeah,
Like,
they have some
really big, massive
sandbox. They said that you can just run around, you know, take care of business however you see fit.
Yeah. The only thing that's a little bit worrying, I guess, is that I still would like to see, when you do get seen, like if you get seen, an alert goes off.
Yeah.
How do you disengage if you're this far into this camp? How, you know, do you just have to start over again, or is there a way to break?
To hide on the roof and lay low.
That's right.
And wait for the timer to click through, and then it's like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Forgot we were looking for a guy.
It's one of the biggest problems with stealth games, right? Is
when you fuck up.
When you fuck up, not punishing, like, you have to punish the player for fucking up so that there's stakes to sneaking, but if you punish them too hard, then it's not fun anymore, because you just...
Maybe it should be something where they have to go back.
Maybe so.
Jump back in time.
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, it looks really good. Like, the Fox engine looks really, really nice.
It looks pretty.
They had that whole time-lapse thing. They had a time-lapse thing where he's got an e-cig. He's got an e-cigar that has holographic smoke that he can smoke.
Really?
So Solid Snake, or, well, this is Big Boss, but Big Boss vapes at this point.
Jeez.
Can we take a moment, Grant, to talk about the word and how
Vape.
dumb it sounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think of vape?
I think it sounds real dumb. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
That's our moment talking about vaping.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. We're done. Let's move on. No offense to any of you who smoke e-cigarettes, but the term vaping sounds really stupid
It's gonna
to
be
me.
it's gonna be a thing. We just gotta just accept it.
Yeah,
Go with it.
Old men who don't like the way that shit sounds.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, let's see. Next up in the list, we had a new Tropes versus Women from Anita Sarkeesian this week. And, you know, it's funny. Jason hates Anita Sarkeesian so much.
Oh, really?
So much. He says very dirty things about her. A lot of gamers do not care for her very much. I am kind of 50-50.
I watched this video and I was like, oh, that was a good video. It's actually pretty well informed. I thought she used a lot of really solid examples.
Yeah.
For how women are poorly depicted in video games. I guess you're saying this is a series, so
yeah,
she's been exploring a bunch of different angles of the same thing in video games.
Yeah, the last video was, I believe it was the Ms. Mister was the thing that she focused on, which is where games and media in general will have the one token, the Smurfette principle, right, where they'll have the one token woman who is basically just a gender swap version of all the other people.
Yeah.
So anyway, this one basically focuses on the depiction of women as kind of sex objects in the background of video games. It starts talking about, and this is actually, see, here's the thing, Grant. Like I said, I'm 50-50 about this, and I actually agree with her, but for different reasons than she puts out.
Oh, I felt like I agreed with the whole thing, and I'm interested to hear what you disagree with.
Okay, well, part of the beginning of the video was her talking about there is a thing in video games that video games love to have a level that is set in a brothel or a strip club or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
They love it. They absolutely love it. Because you get to put a bunch of boobs on the screen, and it's always, here's your sneaking game, and you're sneaking through this brothel, or you got to go into this whorehouse or whatever. So,
and it's like she says, it's a dumb and degrading trope. I don't see the need for it in all these games.
I guess where I come down on most of this stuff is that I don't see a woman in a video game with a bikini on and go like there's a whole internet full of pornography. Like when I'm playing a video game, I'm playing a video game, and I think that the levels these
Sure, but you're an adult. What's the target audience of video games?
Well, dude, come on, man. Teenagers have smartphones and the internet
saying,
as well.
But you put a little like MC whatever the rating adult rating on there. That doesn't mean shit. Like you can monitor things in like movies, but with a video game, it's a lot different.
I don't understand.
Like the rating system, people are going to buy it. Little kids are going to buy the adult games anyway.
You can't. It's that you can't sell M-rated games to kids under 17 without adult consent.
Then I guess their parents are buying it for them.
Yes. Which that I feel is a big problem that never gets talked about. Is that goes to a whole different argument where parents are upset with their children playing violent video games,
but they're not monitoring their kids.
Every single video game console in the entire world has a locking system on it that you can set it so that if you put an M-rated game in, it will bring up a prompt that says, enter the password to be able to play this game. Everyone, and that's been for several generations of consoles, has had this on it. Mm-hmm. So if your kids have Grand Theft Auto 5 and they are playing it, it is because you bought it for them and you're letting them play it on an unlocked console. And, they say, well, they'll just play it at a friend's house. And I'm like, well, then don't let them go to that kid's house if you're actually concerned about this shit. Like, don't take away one thing from all of us just because some people are being irresponsible with it. Anyway, I agree with her about the whole shittiness of the brothel/strip club level.
Okay.
Because I'm bored by it. Because I am not titillated by that level. I'd rather just have a solid level than something that is trying to poke at my dude buttons by going like, look at all these filthy strippers, and I'd be like, I think that's boring. Personally.
But it's effective for other people.
I don't even know if that's the case. I mean,
you think that video games companies are just kind of locked into this system that's like an outdated model?
Well, here's an example, right? Is that so? One of the things that she heavily focuses on in this particular video set, one of the environments that she focuses on is a strip club level in Hitman Absolution, right? Which is a game that came out 2 years ago. She has a whole bunch of it, right? Throwing the dead stripper over to distract the cops. Getting in the box and looking at the strippers and that kind of stuff. Okay, that game didn't like advertise that level as like a big thing. Like I didn't know that there was a strip club level until I played through the game. The front of the game doesn't have it on there. The back of the game doesn't like tout it as a feature. It may have existed in like as a brief in a montage of a trailer or something, but it's not. That's the thing that always kind of gets to me is that it's not like when you look at the marketing push for these games, like they're saying, look, there's a brothel level. Like Dishonored has a brothel level.
But plenty of other games do.
Right.
Do market that sex appeal on there. And so why does this one even need it? It goes back to that same argument.
And the thing is that's the place where I agree, because it's like for example, if I had played that Hitman game, and there had not been, if that level had been, let's just say like a rock and roll, like a club, right, just like a music club, right, and not a strip club, I wouldn't have played it. I wouldn't have played through the game and go, wait a minute. Where was the sexy strip club scene? I was promised a sexy strip club scene.
But it sounds like you're just trying to find like a chink in the armor to dismantle the entire point. I don't think that's relevant to her overall point that this is a pervasive problem in video games, that they're just poorly depicting women and they don't have to, and this sends a message that is continually detrimental.
It's not that I'm not trying to, like, I think that her making these videos is fine.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like what she does with them, because she disables all comments for all of her videos. She disables all upvoting and
I was thinking that's kind of sad, but she kind of has to, because people are dicks.
People are dicks, but generally speaking, I mean, I've never seen her a single time like debate with anybody on any show ever about these concepts. I don't like how sheltered her video series has been with other people's with having to address other people's not the shitty comments, but like legitimate complaints about the things that she has said.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and maybe it would be interesting for her to actually have a debate with someone else that's going to be well informed and respectful on the matter. But opening up this to YouTube comments, the shittiest of the shit trolls would just plague the fuck out of it.
But the thing is that by turning off the comments, it's not like by turning off the comments the YouTube people are go away. You just don't ever have to look at it.
Yeah, it just avoids an ugliness that, I mean, she's trying to rally against an ugliness that's pervasive in our culture, and why enable another medium that allows those people to crop up through anonymity and just continue to be ugly?
Because by ignoring them, they're still there. Is that those people are the people that she is ostensibly trying to change the minds of with these types of videos. But by never engaging with them at all, I feel like what you've got to, there's a whole series of people out there. Like if you go to YouTube and you search for her name and the people who make like hour-long videos just going over every point by point, and like there's a lot of people who say, well, she's not a gamer, so she shouldn't be able to have an opinion. I think that's bullshit personally. I'm like, do whatever you want to. But I feel that
she's an analyst.
That by cutting off any kind of, like, see, for me, I feel that when you want to change something in society or when you want to change something about people's minds,
you need to encourage a discussion.
You have to interact with them. You can't just make your statement, say I'm right, and then tell anybody that wants to say otherwise to shut up and go away.
But aren't we evidence clearly that there is a discussion that happens because of what she does?
This is correct. And there is a lot of discussion that goes on between other people, but not her, and that's one of the things that people don't like about her very much. But
okay, I guess. I mean, I think it's fine for her to kind of present something to the world and then allow other people to carry on the discussion and, you know, champion or
see. I guess here's
tear
the thing
apart.
Is that if I don't know.
Maybe there's a social responsibility there that she's kind of skirting, but okay.
I just think that by yeah, I mean, it used to be that on her old videos, all of her comments were by approval only, that she would have to basically manually approve comments.
Okay, well,
even that, though, I mean, the thing is that...
That's why we have moderators. That's why we kind of police...
Well, YouTube
and
comments,
make sure there's not dickishness like on Rage Select or whatever.
Right, but well, that's true. And,
yeah.
I mean, it's a way harder job with this kind of stuff because the amount of unpleasantness that she gets is, you know, billions of times more.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably just not even worth it because any constructive dialogue that might be had in those comments is just going to be overshadowed by.
I guess for me, the problem that I have is that by closing that stuff off, it feels to me like she's proselytizing, like she's just giving you her sermon about the way that things are without ever reacting to any of the criticism that comes back at her about certain things.
Well, do you think she's oblivious to it? I'm sure she, just the mere fact that she disables those comments, I'm sure she's plenty aware, and maybe she's not the type of person that's comfortable with actually an open debate. But I still think that doesn't invalidate her points.
I don't think it invalidates her point, but I think that it, to me, like I understand that. I mean, I get messed up by like people who are slightly mean on our website, right? I cannot imagine what it is like to have just this overwhelming mountain of people who are saying the worst things in the world to you.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, she has chosen to do this. This is obviously something that she cares about.
Sure, it's a passion.
Right. So if that's the case, then see, I had this argument with somebody a long time ago on the old website about when you tell somebody that they should feel bad for enjoying, let's say the 16-year-old who likes the brothel scene, right?
Okay.
And you tell that person, you should feel like a piece of shit for enjoying that because of here's all these reasons that it exploits women, it's bad for the, you know, all the things that she said in here. And then you don't allow them to you don't talk to them. You just tell them they should feel bad and then walk away. Most of the time that I see that, you're just making that person incredibly frustrated and upset because they're just feeling guilty for enjoying something because there is no discourse. It's just an accusation and then...
It's like when you read a book. There's no dialogue when you read a book.
Sure.
You get told information. Here's kind of the facts. You want to have that dialogue. The rest of the internet is still there for you.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other avenues for people to have that discourse with someone else. And it's probably not hard for someone to find someone else who's going to disagree with them on this point.
That is true. For me, the thing is that I think that the points that she makes, like I said, I agree with a lot of them, but I agree with them for different reasons because I feel like this particular this particular discussion has become so goddamn heated, and there's a way to talk about it that doesn't have to do with feminism or male-female relations or anything. Like, one of her things is talking about, I mean, there was a study that I was looking at. Most video games have male protagonists in them, right?
Yeah.
White male, mid-30s protagonists. I mean, not all of them. And there's ones where you can choose. There's one with multiples. There's ones with non-human protagonists. But a lot of video games have white male protagonists. And, you know, her and other lady gamers, then they say, we would like to see more representation of ladies in video games. And I agree, not necessarily because I feel like there should be some kind of enforced equality, but because I'm fucking tired of stories about white guys, right?
Yeah.
I am a white guy, and I'm like, give me a Puerto Rican lady, you know, or like an Asian dude or something that's not just your standard shaven white guy.
I mean, I'm a father of a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea that it's all male dominated and that women are kind of represented terribly in a lot of the big hit games. Now, you were bringing up a point earlier that you look at, there's plenty of other games. There's plenty of great examples of games that are fixing or not hitting on this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're not a problem. But I mean, she clearly outlined right at the beginning of this. That's fine, but that's not what she's addressing. She's addressing the ones that still do this, and so it's a high percentage of video games that still do this.
So the problems that I generally have with this particular video are kind of twofold. One is that, like all of her videos, she goes out and cherry picks the video games that specifically show what she's talking about.
Okay.
Regardless of how important those games are. This is what I said to Jason the last time that we were talking about this. This would be like saying the movie industry treats women horrifically and then using as your examples a montage of women getting axes in the faces from horror movies. The thing is that when you pick the most low-rent, like pulp-style video games as representative of the entirety of the industry and point to them and say, look how bad video games are, you are... Like, she makes a point of trotting out this game, Mafia 2, for like 2 or 3 different things. Well, Mafia 2 was a smaller title that wasn't like a big AAA hit, you know?
Yeah,
So,
but, I mean, most of these are obviously higher production. She's not going after, like, indie games. These are games that have put a lot of time and effort into their production value, and then that means they've taken a lot of time to make these considerations, and they're still making thousands upon millions or millions of dollars in sales on these games targeting different areas.
See, that's not entirely true. Some of them are, but some of these are smaller game. I guess I'm repeating myself at this point.
Yeah,
for
okay.
me, it's like if you take your this is the problem that I have with things like this, is that if you take your data, right, and you just pick the examples that reinforce your position, and then you present them as an example of the entirety of whatever it is that you're talking about. Like, if I went out and said, here's a case of 12 priests who have molested children, right? Mm-hmm. All priests are child molesters.
Okay, yeah, you're saying that the percentage is a lot lower than what she seems to claim. It's misleading in that regard.
Well, like in her video, this is this is going on probably way too long. We might have to cut a few other stories, but like in her video,
okay,
she has a montage of prostitute characters, right?
Yeah.
One of the prostitute characters that she has in there is from the game The Witcher 2, and The Witcher 2 is actually a game that has kind of graphic sex scenes in it, but they're actually used to reinforce the relationship between the main character and this woman, Triss and Geralt, the Witcher. Yet what she shows of that is just the one part in the game where you can hire a prostitute. Or when she talks about the Grand Theft Auto series, she talks about the way that the Grand Theft Auto series represents women, but she completely ignores the fact that in Grand Theft Auto 4, so she holds up Grand Theft Auto 5, where there's a stripper minigame, right, where you have to grope a stripper and you can take her home if you grope her enough. I think that's I think that's gross and messed up. I felt dirty when I was doing it, right?
It reminds me of, and I actually saw it in here, the Gigolo vision.
Right.
It's just like, what the hell is this?
Right.
Killer's dead.
But the thing is that she completely ignores the fact that in Grand Theft Auto 4, there was a whole minigame that involved meeting a woman, taking her out on a date, like getting to know her, and then at the end of that whole thing, deciding whether you wanted to have a relationship with her. The exact same thing was true of Sleeping Dogs, where she shows you punching a woman and throwing her in the trunk in Sleeping Dogs. She does not show the 12-part mission where you get to know this. There are other women in the game where you get to know them and you go out on dates with them. And
they're rounded out characters.
Exactly, you know. And
okay, but I mean, she gives the disclaimer at the beginning that I thought, you know, it's like, hey, I'm not knocking all of these games, like every element of these games. I'm just going to target these specific areas of the game.
Sure.
That you know, actually add credence to my point. And hell, I can find a bunch of examples, is what she's proving.
Right.
Time and time again, even if it's a little small, like, part of a game, it's still an element that has to be included in that game at some point.
The issue that I have with that is that you can make a very similar video that is the exact opposite of what she's saying if all you do is cherry pick the best things, the best representations of women in video games. That's what I don't necessarily like about the way that she makes her videos, is that if you're very familiar with the game,
so she should also make concessions to and show the other side.
I don't want to sit here and say that I think that women are wonderfully represented in the video game world and nothing needs to change. I don't believe that, because just like I was saying, I'm tired of white males, I'm tired of bikini armor, I'm tired of that kind of shit. I'd rather see a better representation of women. What I don't like is when you're very familiar with the games that she's talking about, you can see how she is omitting things that would make this problem seem less terrible, right?
I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, I think her overall mission to try and help change video games, for what I can see, from what I can tell, is kind of a decent mission. Is she's trying to like elevate these beyond kind of just trashy, and make women better represented in these. That's okay.
I think so. For me, I think at the end of the day, like I said, I half agree. I mean, I definitely agree with a lot of what she's saying. I just think that the way that she's going about it, like I said, comes off as browbeating gamers. Like, there's a point at the end of this where she's talking about all of these negative societal repercussions that happen because of these representations of women in video games, and she just kind of says them like they're a fact, and that they happen, and that there's no disputing this. And it's messing up women because they try to look like these terrible representations, and it's messing up men because they think of women as objects from here on out. But there's no real... I don't know if she's really brought up any serious concrete data outside of...
Like quoting a few different like experts, I guess.
Right. Which the thing is that, I mean, you know, we've had people on Fox News for years telling us that violent movies make you into a fucking serial killer. We've had Christian telling us that Harry Potter turns you into a Satanist. We've had people as far back as Jason and I talk all the time in D&D. You know, what was the Tom Hanks movie where he goes crazy because he was playing D&D and now he can't, it's Mazes and Monsters or something like that.
I don't remember that.
There was a movie that had Tom Hanks in it.
It must have been in the 80s.
He was playing D&D and he couldn't disengage from it, and so he went crazy because he just thought he was in the D&D world. Because in that time when D&D came out, there was a whole parents group that was saying, this is going to fuck our kids up, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to make everybody delusional. And the thing is that what I don't necessarily like about her point is that I feel like the things that she's saying have a lot of merit, but that by presenting them as
if she over sensationalizes it, it kind of detracts from it.
Right. It's just like what I said, is that if you come to me and you say, I want to see less chiseled white guys in video games, and I'd be like, yeah, me too. I totally do.
Yeah.
But not because I feel like...
But if you come at Jeff and say, Jeff, you're a monster because you played that game.
Right.
And you treat women like shit now.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Exactly.
That's not a conversation.
Right. So that's okay. Kind of where I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you know, you haven't been... I've been messing with her and her videos for like 2.5 years.
Yeah,
now,
no, I'm not familiar with her. I think you've mentioned her before. I didn't know this was the same person.
Yeah.
Until now, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I figured we were just going to talk about this and be like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
They need to fix that in video games. But I guess there's the other side. Okay.
I mean, she gets a lot of hate, and I don't think that she should.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the way that she presents her point, I feel has it's
a little pompous.
It's a little pompous, and
okay.
I don't necessarily like it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's been about 30 minutes of Anita Sarkeesian. All right, we're gonna have to jump real quick through a lot of the rest of these. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that.
Oh, those were such good stories too.
No, they weren't.
Okay.
On the same topic, there was a big kerfuffle last week about Assassin's Creed Unity, where so in Assassin's Creed Unity, the new Assassin's Creed game, there's 4-player co-op, right?
Okay.
So you're in the game and you see 3 of your 3
And we don't see that lady
you.
from the French one?
No. Aveline from Liberation? No. This is past that.
Okay.
Or a different time period.
Gotcha.
So there was a whole thing where they said we want to have women as playable characters, and Ubisoft came out and said that that would take too much time and effort to do, and it has really upset a lot of people.
Huh.
I personally think that this is one of those things where if you really do care about this, then you need to knuckle down, bite the bullet, and not buy Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah, I guess so.
And you need to try to convince your friends not to buy it, because this goes back to another thing that I was thinking about last week, where this whole thing came out, and there's people on Twitter that were saying, Ubisoft, you're a piece of shit. You do this. You need to do this, right? You've had female assassins in other games. The fact that it would be too much work is bullshit, and that's bullshit. You need to put it in the game.
Do you think this is just like a PR fuck up? Like someone said something and they're like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have said it like that.
No, I honestly think that it probably Assassin's Creed games get made in like a year, and they're on a super tight schedule. And so they looked at it and they said,
they have a bunch of storyline that is male. Based on like how the interactions go, it has to be a guy instead of a girl.
Well, see, this is what I don't quite understand, because the way the game is set up is you play the main character who is a dude, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you have other people in your game, you have 3 other assassins with you, and that's what these guys are, right?
Yeah.
Now, in every one of their games, they see their player model as the dude main character from their Assassin's Creed Unity game.
Okay.
So I kind of wonder to myself, where would you? I mean, you could put a female character in as one of the other assassins that you see the other people as.
Why don't you just say one of those 4 dudes is a female, and she just disguises herself as a dude? Boom, done.
Grant, you're just making you're like getting bridges out all over the place.
Yeah, it seemed kind of simple, but like, yeah, she's an assassin and she's able to move stealthier if she kind of disguises herself as a guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, basically what they've said is
that dude Todd, the assassin there, his name is Laura now.
Yeah,
problem solved.
Assassin Tom. This has been a big thing where people have been really going after Ubisoft for it, and I've said this over and over again, and it kind of goes back to the same thing. One of the things that I've said about Anita Sarkeesian in the past is that if you feel real strongly about this, don't buy Assassin's Creed Unity, and make sure that you let Ubisoft know that you didn't buy that game because they wouldn't put a female character into it, and if the market is able to show, at the end of the day, all this shit gets done for money, right? So if Ubisoft can go, look, we didn't put a lady in this one and it sold like half as well as the last one that we did, we need to make sure to put a lady in the next one.
So is Rage Select going to take a stand and not review this game?
No.
Okay.
I review everything.
Okay.
But then it's funny because as a response to that, there's a game called Sunset Overdrive that's coming out.
Yeah.
And they made this video where they basically created the E3 trailer for Sunset Overdrive had a guy as the main protagonist, but they've come out and said that you can have basically men or women as the primary protagonist, and they came out with this video that basically has a female protagonist in Sunset Overdrive who's dressed almost exactly like one of the assassins from Assassin's Creed.
Damn.
Is being kind of like just, yeah, go fuck yourself.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Not that I think that the crossover between the audience for Sunset Overdrive and for Assassin's Creed, I mean, they're not really very similar games.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's cool.
They're making a Dead Rising movie, which is very interesting.
Huh. Will this be the first video game movie that does well?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
It's being made by the guys who made the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series, which was just really like ultra realistic.
I remember seeing parts of it. Like I think I saw the one with the lizard guy in it.
Oh yeah, with Reptile. And then I guess the Lorenzo Di Bonaventure as producer. I mean, the thing about a Dead Rising series, you remember playing Dead Rising, right?
Is that the one with Daisy Maverick?
Yeah. It's a goofy zombie game.
Yeah, it was all over the place. It was nuts.
So you could just make a goofy zombie movie, and like it would be like, you know, if you made Shaun of the Dead but a little bit more violent than Shaun of the Dead.
Take Zombieland or something.
Right, Zombieland. It would totally be. Could be Dead Rising. In fact, the worst thing that you could probably do with a Dead Rising movie would be to make it all dark and serious.
Yeah, not funny.
Right. If you made it into World War Z, then it would probably be the shitty video game movie.
All right. I'm on board.
Yeah, I think
They can do it well.
I think it's pretty cool. And they said it's going to stream first on Crackle.
Weird.
Which
Okay.
is, I don't know, a little bizarre. Finally, and this is just a very, very short thing. I didn't actually make you watch this video, Grant, but for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm a really, really big fan of when I don't know if you've ever seen the Team Fortress videos, Grant.
No.
Where you meet the characters. They have a whole thing in Team Fortress 2 where you can use a movie player or they have a movie editor that you can actually make movies in Team Fortress 2 with.
Really?
And they made this new one called Expired that is it's really funny, and everybody should go watch it.
Okay.
I think it's really. I really want the Valve studio that does this to make a full length movie because they're just using the Team Fortress 2 in-game engine, and yet the whole thing looks really nice, and the characters are really funny, and the plot was really funny. So if you haven't seen this, you should totally go watch it because it's
wow. Yeah. If they have all this already set up,
yeah,
they could just throw together a movie.
yeah. Well, the thing is that before they were making little character vignettes that were like 3 minutes long, and this is 15 minutes. So,
awesome. It looks really good too.
Yeah, there's some kind of rough edges around some of the characters, but for the most part, it's really funny, and I think that all of you guys should totally go watch it because it's really hilarious.
Cool.
So, with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, but when we come back, we're going to do nothing but answer questions.
Nothing but questions.
Nothing but questions. Throw a question at it, Grant.
Throw a question. Email time.
It's time for emails. That's right. Are you ready?
The email.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you just throwing down a strong bat?
I strong batted it.
You strong batted it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, man. I was actually, when I was out last night, Brian had a Homestar Runner keychain, and I was just like, oh, yeah, Homestar Runner. It's been so long. They had that one.
Yeah.
What, it was a thing where they did like a...
For April Fools.
April Fools, a few little shorts.
Return, yeah.
I miss Homestar Runner.
Right?
I like that.
It's so good. I wondered why it disappeared.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, if you want to send us in an email, mail@rageselect.com is the email address. That is mail@rageselect.com. Once again, Grant, I've had people sending me questions in the admin account. I've had people posting comments with their questions for the email show in them. I pretty much only parse mail@rageselect.com for the questions. So if you have a question, please send it there. It makes it a lot easier for me. And last week, we only mentioned it. We only answered a couple questions. So if you had a question that you sent in a couple weeks ago and we haven't gotten to it, you can send it in again. I don't mind getting the question multiple times because it could just be that I hit the limit. Because we're actually a little bit light on questions this week. We only have about, seven or eight.
Oh, geez. I'll pull up the ones from our Last of Us.
Oh, for The Last of Us?
Yeah. Run through the rest of this.
Then we wouldn't have any for The Last of Us, though. All right. Our first one comes in from our friend Dr. Alex, who says, Dear Raging Bulls, longtime fan and supporter, my question pertains to a growing inability to play video games. The last game I played at length alone was The Last of Us, and with my wife and friends, Far Cry 3. Since picking up Titanfall, I found myself patient with... I'm not sure. Okay. I found myself patient with games for longer... I'm going to assume that you meant, since picking up Titanfall, I found myself patient with games for no longer than 30 minutes. Am I becoming disinterested in gaming overall, or is this a result of being understimulated? How may I get back into gaming, as this is also affecting my social and marital life? Gaming used to be my getaway from work, tediousness, and the shit of adulthood. I miss it terribly. Sincerely, Dr. Alex.
That's so funny.
P.S. If you could be sponsored to attend E3 personally next year, would you accept the gift? Well, Alex, if we did that, we had the funds to be able to go to E3 this year, so it was just more of a matter of we didn't get in. Anyway, we'll get to this question. Grant, I don't know. Do you have any?
Okay, this line here about how may I get back into gaming, as this is also affecting my social and marital life.
Yeah,
I love the fact that I need to play video games more
Yeah.
to have a better social and marital life.
You know,
That seems counterintuitive to me, but for some people, you need some sort of stress relief, I guess.
I mean, I guess like as a TV dude, Grant.
Sure.
Like you can imagine a situation where you were just. Like, so you just were totally disinterested in every show, even shows that you used to like, right? And you started watching them, and you were just like, ugh. Like that would be a problem, right?
It's called low T.
Low T.
You got low testosterone.
Oh, is that it?
Can't get it up in the bedroom.
Is that
or
what those
on
radio
the
ads
video
are
game
for?
Controllers. That's what it is. Yeah. There's a pill for that, I'm sure.
Oh no. Alex, I personally, I think that you might just be hitting. I mean, there's a couple of different things that I've generally seen this happens to people. I feel like I'm talking with them about some kind of medical problem. This happens to everybody, Alex.
Hey, we've all been there. It's embarrassing, I know.
I personally think that the best way to kind of get your groove back is you can do one of two things. You can either just move away from gaming for a little while, right? Instead of gaming in your spare time, like say you've got 30, you can't game for longer than 30 minutes. Just put them down, and go watch some movies you've never seen before.
Allow absence to make that heart grow fonder.
Exactly. Read a book, just decompress and come back to it. The other thing could definitely be that you could be in a situation where right now, at least, we are in a kind of a drought for games. Watch Dogs came out, and that's the last big game for. I mean, UFC came out this week, but that's kind of a niche title. But the summertime for gaming generally tends to be a little bit more sparse. As when we come to like September and October, well, it'll pick back up again. But July and August tend to be a little bit just a low time for games. So Q1 tends to introduce a lot of games, and then Q2 tends to have a tapering off, but Q3 tends to be a bit unpleasant when it comes to video games.
Do you think it's a matter that he goes through games that frequently, and
maybe,
and there's just a bunch of lame games right now?
Well, what I would say is inference from this email is when he says that I find myself impatient after about 30 minutes, is that he probably has at least an hour or two blocked out for video games, right? And if you got that time in a day or every couple days to put into video games, you can work through quite a few games.
My guess would be, well, first, I have a couple things, but first off, if he's playing something like The Last of Us, maybe it's hard to meet that type of quality.
Very possibly.
And he's kind of topping out and hitting all the good stuff, and now everything's just looking pale in comparison.
Yep.
But the other one is maybe is something else in your life that is distracting you that you need to address.
Possibly.
I mean, if there's something else that is kind of stressing you so that you need this as a release, maybe you need to address that other problem, because that's preventing you from also enjoying just playing video games, being able to turn things off.
Yeah, it's possible that if the other stresses that you're trying to get away from are so strong or have become even stronger, that you
become restless.
That the relief of video games is not enough to actually take your mind off of it because it's such a strong thing. So I can only speak to the first part.
Yeah.
Which I can say that one of the things that I find is a good way to, like, whenever anybody is like, hey, I just got a PS3, what should I play? And what I'll say is, like, go to Metacritic and look up PS3 and do a search for, like, all games on PS3 ranked by score, and look at, like, what the top 25 of those are, and play any of them that you haven't already played, because chances are they're probably fantastic. Or go back and find a game that you did like if, let's say that it's been a while since you played Skyrim, go put Skyrim back in and go check that out and play some of the DLC for it, or go back and play through Mass Effect again or something like that.
Or get into TV and, leave this Rage Select site and go to the TVdudes.com and just start discussing TV with us.
Oh, is that how it's going to be now, Grant?
Oh, challenge. No.
This is the moment that you picked for your coup.
Capitalizing on it.
The pre-recorded podcast where I could just be like, hey, cut that part where Grant said TV Dudes out.
Cut that bullshit.
I take every time that Grant says TV Dudes, and I want you to take Rage Select and then just paste it over to his.
Quit Rage Select and go to Rage Select.
Yeah. So Alex, I don't know. I mean, I've known a lot of people who play a lot of video games who get burned out. Also, switching your genre can help. Like if you do a lot of shooters, maybe go pick up like a JRPG or something, or even different systems like a Vita or a 3DS or something, and just play something different. somewhere else.
Yeah.
But if you can, you can get away from games for a while.
It's like that whole porn conundrum. Maybe you just start getting tired of the same old porn. You gotta start getting into some weird shit.
Oh God. You know what? I've never
check out Japanese games, man.
Grant, I'm going to tell you this right now. I have never gotten tired of just vanilla ass porn in my lifetime. And I find when I look at like what them kids are into now or whatever, and I'm just like, this is mean, and I don't like it. Like, like people
violent ones,
like, yeah, it's just like, yeah, or
I would like to think that a lot of people aren't into that. That's niche.
I'm just like, do you gotta gag? I don't want to see people gagging on other people. That's anyway.
Don't do that to your testicles, sir.
That's right.
Don't do that.
What are you doing? No, respect your testes. All right, the next one comes in from Yamos, and Yamos says, "Hello, Jeff and Grant." Well, this is originally Jace was on here, but I like this question for you too, Grant, because I don't know that much about it. You two typically proclaim that you are men without fear when it comes to horror.
This is totally geared to you and Jason.
What do you two? Let's see. When do you two last remember being really scared? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to just be about media. It can be in regards to being lost at a circus as a child with a handful of clowns hovering over you trying to help you. That was my cousin's origin story of his clownophobia. Thanks and rage on, Yamos. You know what, Grant? I feel like the media has been telling me to be afraid of clowns my entire life. I'm just not. I think they're hilarious and they're friendly and stuff. Like,
yeah, but that's kind of scary. Oh, okay. I was over at Kayla's house the other day, and her and Rubio, because I was over there for beers.
Right.
And she brings out this scary ass clown mask.
Oh, so the animatronic clown mask?
I don't know what it was. It was a thing of nightmares. And she's like, "Oh, look at this cute thing," and all of us were like, "What the fuck is that?"
Do you know where that came from?
No.
She dated a guy that collected animatronic clown masks. It was one of the very first things that she said on a Sparkle Fandango, and it was one of the. It used to be that when we recorded Sparkle Fandango, I was in the room with them, and she said that. I was just like, I had to clamp my hands over my mouth to go, "What? Why?"
That was one of the last times I was scared. That thing was creepy.
And then she also told us a story one time about the guy that she dated that collected all kinds of knives, and I'm just like,
her and Allison,
Kayla,
and their rogues gallery, of past dates are just absurd.
I'll tell you, I have talked at length before about how I spend a lot of time in my life desensitizing myself to fear. I've tried very hard over the course of my life to watch really fucked up movies or like not turn away from messed up situations to try to at least experience fear so that I'm able to understand it and control it more than just being like, freaking out and running away. Like, generally speaking, what happens when I get scared now, I've said this before, but what happens when I get scared is that like there'll be a jump scare and I don't jump. I just stand still. I still have a total adrenaline reflex in my...
And then you just piss yourself.
That's right. Just urine comes flooding out of me.
It's a defense mechanism. Oh, I'm not going to kill that guy. He smells like piss.
Like Zoidberg. So, I don't know. But then every so often, my brain will just decide to start offering up horror after horror to me. Like, it's like my imagination just goes on a rampage, and it's just like...
You start thinking of creepy things?
A lot of times it'll be before I go to bed, like 1 out of every 1,000 times, so I'm just laying in bed getting ready to go to sleep. My brain's just like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, oh, what? That's so fucked up.
I've had that happen, too. Right. I don't know. It's some like weird thing our brains must do to like want to fuck with us.
It's like, hey, you know what would be cool? You're laying here in bed. I know you're about to fall asleep, but imagine what it would be like if like a 2-meter long black widow was just like sitting on your chest, like with its face up in your face.
Holy God, dude.
Now don't open your eyes because it's there. If you keep your eyes closed, you won't be able to see it.
Scumbag just like,
brain, you motherfucker.
Jeez.
There have been a few times. I walk my dog at night a lot, so I don't have a lot of qualms about walking around in the middle of the night by myself. But there have been a few times where I've been like in downtown situations, and there's like some sketchiness in the area that you're in. You know.
Yeah. You should be nervous about your neighborhood though, walking a dog, because I saw your neighbor walking the fattest pig around here.
Yep.
You have a neighbor with a pig.
Yep.
pigs eat people. I see Hannibal. I've watched that show.
It is a big pig. There's a large ass. That's a hog.
It's a hog.
Yeah.
A pot-belly chunker.
Yeah. My dog wants to go check that pig out so bad.
Wants to tap that pig.
I don't know. Every time that pig is out and we get anywhere near it when we're on our walk, he's just like, "Oh, I want to go.
I want to eat bacon."
I don't even know if he wants
bacon.
I don't even know if he wants to eat it, but
But I do.
yeah. I'll tell you the time that I feel fear more than anything, Grant.
Oh yeah.
This is Jeff 101 that everybody already knows, but you try to get me to talk to a person I've never met before, especially when I'm sober. I will have a panic attack, especially women.
Yeah. I mean,
It's I can't get over that. It's really difficult.
back in my other days when I had to try and talk to women, that's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's easy, on the other side to be like, yeah, just go talk to them.
Yeah.
But the burden ain't on me.
Right.
So, I was thinking of some of the times I've been scared. I mean, recently I could point to when I was playing this Grant versus Game stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In the first initial episodes.
Outlast.
Outlast and SCP. Those are kind of scary.
Yep.
And then it kind of it gets formulaic, and the scare appeal kind of wears off. But I can be a little bit of a fraidy cat to some of this stuff.
For me, I've always found that like traditional like gore scares doesn't do anything for me. It's more of the disturbingly bizarre that gets me more than anything else.
One of the last movies I recall being really freaked out about was this movie called Irreversible. The French movie kind of works in backwards.
Monica Bellucci in it.
Yeah, and there's so much about that is so disturbing that it just made me like uncomfortable and like kind of panicky.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a different kind of fear, I guess, but it's just a fear of humanity's dark side, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Inside, the French film? It's about this.
Another fucked up one.
There were two French films that I watched that were actually fairly affecting. One was Martyrs, which is very well known, and the other one was called The Inside. And basically, the synopsis, just the setup for the movie is: there's this woman and she's pregnant. She's in her house by herself, and then there's this other woman with a fucking huge pair of scissors who is psychotic, who is trying to get into her house. And it's just like a good 40 minutes of that movie is basically this one pregnant woman and this other crazy woman. And one is trying to do crazy shit. And it was just like, it's intense. So.
I watch my daughter at home. I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
And occasionally I'll be like kind of lost on the internet while she's playing. And I'll look up and I'm like, where the hell are you? I can't find her. And I'll have a scared panic attack.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of like look behind my laptop, and she's actually just kind of like between my legs watching TV, like just chilling there in front of me. I'm like, oh, you're right. Jesus, you're right there.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Panic attack over. Yeah, well, thanks for making us recall scary stuff, Yamos. Damn.
Yeah, I'll ask Jason at some point his question about that. But that motherfucker, he's pretty unflappable, man. He's a cool cucumber.
Yeah.
That guy. All right. So this is one that's going to require a little bit of talking about because it refers to something.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, if you get a chance, could you check out this article? This is a cracked article that's 12 video game annoyances that need to die, part 2, which you can look up. I've already read it, and I'm not sure what to think about it.
What to think about video games?
And I'm not sure what to think about video games. I really dig them, but seeing them trash in this article confuses me. I get that it is an opinion piece, but do you think the points raised in the article invalidates games or makes them less worthwhile? Are the most celebrated games in the business inherently terrible for these annoyances mentioned? Also, based on the article, should I or anybody feel like a dumbass for really liking and valuing them? Rage on, Joe. So the guy that wrote this is David Wong. He wrote John Dies at the End, and this book is full of spiders. He's on their podcast all the time. He's a real sharp dude. And so I'm just going to talk about a few of these. Let's see. I'm going to go back to the first. Let's see if I can go back to the first page of this. Basically,
go back to that Kate Upton article. Number 12.
I'll just talk about a few things. I'm just reading the bullet points here. Making every game about endless combat, right? He talks about Uncharted and a few different things. And And let's
really,
see.
because Uncharted, I feel like it interjects story into there.
It does, but the actual interaction between you and the game is endless combat. Let's see.
Okay.
Refusing to tell really serious stories.
Sure. I mean, I think some do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nice to see that.
Game mechanics that remind you that it's a game. This is talking about limiting stuff and like putting up numbers and health bars and shit like that on the screen that will, where you have a game that looks extremely realistic, but then it's like, you've got numbers coming out of some dude's head, right? Or you've got like UI elements that are on the screen that will remind you that you've got a game. Like if you're playing Grand Theft Auto, right? You look down, there's a map, right? But in real life, you don't have a map type of thing.
Okay.
And then, I don't know. There's a few different things. You guys can go read this full article. And the thing is that I understand when I first read this article, I was a little defensive about it as well because it's very much criticizing our core concept of what video games are. When you look at like when he talks about refusing to tell serious stories, he's saying, okay, he says in his article, The Last of Us is a serious story, but you don't have like serious drama, right? Most video games are set up in some kind of action context because that's generally what we think of as video games.
And they don't have you like invest a lot in a lot of the characters, the side characters, anything like that.
Right. Is it generally speaking, it's like you're telling a story, but you still need to figure out a way to have somebody shoot 100 people in order to tell that story, right? So I think that this article, that you shouldn't feel bad about liking video games. What this article is doing is it's kind of just doing like, it's kind of just talking about the impression that I get out of it is it's just pushing video games, right?
Yeah, take that next leap.
Right.
Continue evolving. Here's elements that you can do to improve.
Right.
It's clear that the title itself is pure clickbait.
It's cracked, has a lot of that
Yeah,
shit.
it's cracked.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the guy himself, from what I could see of the articles, he's kind of talking about like, here's some of the things that games are doing. Here's ways that this should improve. And in the future, I envision that it'll be like this.
Yeah, here's another one. Epic game plots that amount to a ridiculous chain of errands where you've got to rescue the princess, but then you've got all these radiant side quests that just kind of muddy the general thrust of the narrative that you're in, right? And none of these things are like he talks a lot about BioShock Infinite, where your job is to go to Columbia, and get Elizabeth and then leave. But then from there, suddenly you get into this weird subplot where in order to leave, you need a blimp. And the only person who has a blimp is the Resistance. And they'll give you the blimp, but you have to go get these weapons. So you go to get the weapons, but the guy doesn't have them. So then you find a tear that goes to another universe where he does have them. So then
it's this whole giant Rube Goldberg machine. You have to find the first marble to roll.
Right. And it flows fairly well in the game, but he does make the point that the plot is kind of ridiculous. That it's one of those, you've seen that story about like, well, I'll give you a chicken, but only if you can find 2 marbles for me.
Yeah.
Oh, Ricky has marbles, but he'll only trade them if I can get him a feather from a pigeon, right?
Yeah,
so
that's kind of. It's annoying when you can kind of take a step back and look at it, but to Joe's point, or his question, I guess, about feeling bad, no, dude. If you play something and you enjoy it, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
that's the goal in life.
It's a thing that we've always, it's a thing that we've talked about from time to time a lot. And the number one on this list is giving us moral choices that don't actually affect anything in the world. You just get a good guy, bad guy choice, which, I think that could be done a little bit better. But I think that once again, the thrust of this article is just that games can be better than what they are right now. That what we've got does not represent the end of video game development as a whole. There's still things that we can work on. And basically what he's advocating is more and more trying to make video games more resemble life than a game, than a structure that is contained.
And I guess kind of raise the artistic value.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit more, I don't want to say cinematic, but maybe cinematic. Maybe that's what I want to say. I don't know. A little bit more grandiose. Have it have weight and have us take a larger part in our investment in something that we're interacting with.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you, there was a piece. I don't know if it was Anita Sarkeesian or whether it was a branch of something that I was reading that had to do with her. There was somewhere that I was reading this really good point that was made. That it was what I was just saying is that most video games that are out there, good 95% of video games that are out there. We interact with them through violence, through swinging a sword, shooting a gun, zapping a dude with a laser, or punching him in the face or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some limits as to how sophisticated your story structure can be. Like in Uncharted 2, there's a point where Nathan Drake is like, I don't want to kill people, and it's like, you've killed 1,000 people.
This is no point for a moral high ground, buddy.
Well, in the beginning of Uncharted 2, you're breaking into this museum, right?
Yeah.
And he tells the guy that he's breaking in with, like, no guns. We're going to use these tranquilizer guns. I don't want to kill anybody. And then while you're going in the museum, there's this very specific part where there's a guy standing on the edge of a building, and he goes up behind him, and your only option is to grab him and just throw him off the building to his death. You're just like, well, which one is it, Nathan? Like,
do as I do, not as I say.
Right.
Do as I say, the other way around.
So I guess the way to take this is it's hard a lot of times when there's criticism. I mean, Grant and I were just talking about this with Anita Sarkeesian. It's hard when people criticize the thing that you love. You want to defend it, right? You don't want to feel like it's crappy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just knowing that we still have. There's still more that we can do with video games than what we're doing right now.
I think one of my biggest frustrations I see with articles like this is that sometimes you can have a great point made in an article, but the editor comes along and is like, oh, I'm going to bump this up and change what the message is merely by changing the title because it markets better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's... I haven't read the article, but...
Yeah, I'll go back to part 1 and I'll read a couple of these out. I haven't read all of this. Games where you pay money to win. I totally agree with that. With microtransactions and things like that. Social gaming bullshit instead of real life multiplayer. I don't really know what that one is. I only read the second part, but
I don't know if I agree there. I think you're still socializing when you play it online against other people.
The thing for me is that it's real easy. I don't know what that one is for, but it's real easy to as a video game developer, like if you want to make a game, it's super freaking easy to go, I'm going to make a third-person shooter because we have hundreds of those, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to try to branch out and make something
Yeah, who wants
different.
to reinvent the wheel every time?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's going to have to happen if we don't... because eventually this stuff gets stale and you have to move on.
Make the next leap.
Mm-hmm. All right, this next one comes in from Patio. Patio says, and that's Patty, like Irish. And
like
then,
furniture.
Yeah, no, not patio.
Oh.
Not Patio, not the frozen Mexican dinner.
like patio.
Right.
Look at the Irish.
Dear Rage Crew, I love where I work and the people I work with, but some secret mouth breather's ass apparently just explodes in a geyser of shitty chunks all over the toilet seat. And they aren't civilized or considerate enough to clean up after themselves. Currently, I simply bury the rage and clean it myself, though I secretly want to drag the suspected poop freckler into the bathroom and rub their nose in their mess saying, no, no, and then beat them with a rolled-up newspaper. What are some of your horrible coworker experiences, and what were your fantasy reactions versus how you actually responded? I need to know I'm not alone. Thanks for all the hard work and amazing content, you classy melon farmers. Best Patio. That's a Die Hard on TNT quote, isn't it? Yippee-ki-yay, melon farmer.
Is it? Wow.
I think that's what that is. Yeah. I'm really fluent in what they substitute for the vulgarity on TNT.
You are. That's good.
So let's see, Grant. Have you how many bad coworkers? Let's see. I don't want to incriminate anybody. So
No. I mean, funny enough, I've had a similar experience to what he's saying. Except for that we had a janitor that had to clean our toilets. Oh. But there was someone that was just shit exploding all over the thing and then just leaving him. Like, what kind of human are you? Where's your decency?
It's really messed up. I don't understand that.
And then he'd go back to his house because he didn't have a functioning toilet.
Yeah.
And this guy. But
there's a story about that guy that I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest annoyances I remember. There was I worked in this place with high cubicle walls, and this isn't like that big of a deal.
Someone jerking off in the cubicle.
Someone was always jerking off. No, it's so gross. No, but there's high walls, so you couldn't see someone.
Right.
And there's like every day at like 2:00.
Yeah.
This one annoying coworker of mine would pop her soda can open.
Yeah.
And go. And and then just go clap, 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 pouring it into another glass. And the noise was so fucking annoying to me.
I'm having a hard time getting on board with you on this one, Graham. Why?
It was such a small thing. That's why I said it's a small thing. But I wasn't seeing the action, but I had to hear this like every time. It's like the office is quiet except for this pop, click, blub, blub, blub. And it's like fucking. So I don't know. I was like, it's stupid. I want to say pour that in another room, but that's how I felt.
Wow, Grant, that's
okay. That's dumb.
Woo.
What about you?
Oh, I've had a few really, really fucked up coworkers. There was one. The one specifically was the job that I had before I became an animator. I worked at this retail computer store here in town, and we had this one asshole who worked there that was one of the biggest piece of shits I've ever met in my life. He thought he was so important that he like wouldn't answer the phone.
Oh my gosh, I worked with the same guy.
Yeah,
I feel like
like we ran a retail store, right? And we had like 5 employees. So when it got like really busy, just everybody was on deck like doing stuff. Except for him, he would never go up to help customers unless our manager told him to specifically go up there because he thought he was too good for that. He realized he was a piece of shit. But so then I
hate this guy already.
All like 4 of the others of us are out there helping customers, and the phone is ringing, and we did not have like a voicemail system, so it would just ring forever. And it'd be on ring like 14, and he's just sitting back there, not even on the internet, but just like staring off into space. And it's like, motherfucker, every one of us is doing the job that you're here to get paid for. You could pick up the phone and just be like, hello, what can I do for you? He also had psoriasis on his head. And he used to like to pick the scabs on his head and then eat them. Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
This podcast is over. What the fuck?
He also, one day he tried to make
God,
he tried to make ordered chemicals off the internet to try to make some kind of homemade like balm for his psoriasis.
Okay.
And what he ended up doing was giving himself a chemical burn, which ended up being a like boil of pus about 5 inches in diameter on his arm.
I don't like this.
That he wanted to keep showing me.
No.
And because I didn't want to see it.
You're like him right now because you keep telling me.
And then then it burst, and then he wanted to show it to me.
No, Jeff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
End of that story.
Yes.
I had a coworker that was also really shitty.
Yeah.
He was brought on. I was when I was a graphic designer at this other place.
Yeah.
He was brought on as a consultant graphic designer to like redo our template interface thing for one of the things we did.
Okay.
And he was there for 3 months, always sitting there with giant coffee and like his energy drinks.
Yeah.
Doing nothing.
Yeah.
And he was just. And he would like come and ask me to do shit. I'm like, you haven't fucking done a single thing.
Yeah.
And I needed like some of the work he was doing, and he wouldn't do it. So I just went in and did it myself, and I took care of the problems and presented to the bosses, and they were all happy. And I was like, I just did it. That's fine. And he got so huffy about it, even though he wasn't fucking doing anything, that he like wanted to have a talk with me and like tried to like lecture me and yell at me. And he went kind of like apeshit psycho on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, why haven't they not fired this guy? They know they're paying him for nothing. My boss confided in me plenty of times. He's like, I know I need to fire him. I just haven't done it. This guy like just like went like, I was like, okay, fine, I'll go talk to you. And he went and talked to me in the parking lot, and he just started yelling and shouting and screaming at me about how dare I like go around him on something. And I was like, we're on the same team. We just need to get our work done.
Right. Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Thankfully, he got fired like a week after that.
Man.
Nightmare guy to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that other guy that I was talking about, he was the worst coworker I've ever had in my life.
That's your guy is the worst coworker I've ever worked with as well, by proxy. That's disgusting.
Yeah. He was terrible. He was a terrible person. Also, we used to get lunch every Friday. We used to get the
That sounds like that guy was getting plenty of lunch off of his head.
at that place that I worked, the company would buy us lunch every Friday.
Uh-huh.
And so we worked in downtown Austin, where there were these beautiful restaurants and nice little places, and we could have our lunch. He wanted to go to Chili's every Friday. He was like, who was the guy on 30 Rock? Lutz. He was like Lutz that wanted to go to
Always
Blimpie.
wanted to go to Blimpie.
Right. He was like that because Chili's had gluten-free stuff on their menu, and he had WebMD diagnosed himself with gluten intolerance, even though he just ate what the fuck ever. Our boss at that job would buy snacks for us. He would go to like Costco. He'd buy like those big things of like cashews, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'd have this big thing of cashews. So every day we'd go over there.
Community food at work is so gross.
And I'll be like, okay, so get a cup, right, and get the thing, and then pour some cashews in the cup, and then go.
Uh-huh.
So he would go over there and just shove his entire hand like in a motion that touched every cashew
Nasty,
in the entire thing.
Scabby,
fucked up
boil pus
hands.
Yeah.
And I tried so many times just be like, dude, will you just pour him in a cup like all the rest of us do? Will you just pour? He's like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, because once you've done that, then like the rest of us can't fucking use that anymore, because it's like it'd be like spitting in a bowl full of candy, right? When you get to a party or something,
like, or the people that would reach into the fridge and grab ice by the handful out of the bucket,
right?
And just after I'd had a coworker tell me that one of those women that was grabbing the ice didn't wash her hands. So I had to confront her and say, hey, you need to stop doing that. Use a scoop. There's a scoop there. I don't like using a scoop. I was like, well, I don't care what you like.
Yeah.
Use the scoop, because all the rest of us want to get ice in it. It's fucking disgusting.
Yep.
It got really quiet after I said that.
Also, fantasy reactions, I wanted to stab that motherfucker in the heart multiple times. And it was actually one of the reasons that I was so glad to get out of that job, was just to get away from this one person. Like, I've had kind of annoying coworkers in the past. This guy by far took the cake just all day long, because he refused. And the other thing was that he should have been fired a long time ago. But they kept him around because he had one skill that made the company some money. And eventually he quit because he was too good for that place. He also dated this woman that was so annoying. Like,
everything about this guy is just miserable.
It was this younger girl, right? Perfectly fine, but one of those people who just will not shut their goddamn mouth, right?
Uh-huh.
So what would happen is that about an hour before the store closed, she would come to get a ride from him home. They lived together, and she would walk over to him, and she would just start me about her day, about everything that had happened. And one of those people that can make, I went to the store and got a banana, into like a 6-hour story about it. Like, and then Janet called, blah, blah.
Every detail is important. Every detail.
And he would not look at her. He would not respond. He wouldn't even pretend to be listening and go, uh-huh, uh-huh. He would just be doing work while she was sitting there looking at him, talking to him. So what would happen is that we had the back of the store and then we had the front of the store. So what happened is one of us invariably would stand up and go to the front of the store and close the door between the front and the back of the store, which we never did, right? And then about 5 minutes later, somebody else would stand up. And then by the time that we would end up closing the store, everybody but him and her was in the front of the store. And the front of the store couldn't handle like 6 people. It's like a counter that handles 3 people. We're like sitting on top of it, and somebody's just in a chair over there. Nobody's doing any work because you're just like, oh my God, she is so irritating. Anyway, that guy was the worst coworker I ever had. So let's keep moving.
There's another person asking a question who just makes us bring up terrible past memories.
Yeah. I'm going to tell Patty here that I don't think that he should try to like root out the source of the shit monster in his building and like confront them or anything, because that can turn terrible.
That can turn shitty.
It can be really shitty, man. It'd be really shitty.
But having the office manager alerted and maybe have them send out a notification.
Yeah.
And maybe it is the office manager, and you confront them about the problem, and they're like, shit, I gotta stop shitting everywhere.
I've heard some people say that if you have a person who is very overweight, that they can't actually aim their buttock region because of getting on top of the toilet seat is difficult or whatever. But I'm not saying that you should just instantly go to the heaviest person in your office and be like, "You, I know it was you.
Stop shitting everywhere.
Stop shitting everywhere." It's not to me even the main problem that
go to the Wendy's.
There is shit all over the place. It's that they won't take care of it.
Yeah.
Like, I get irritated when I go into a public bathroom and there's a toilet that hasn't been flushed that has urine in it. I'm just like, there's a bunch of animals in here? Fucking
push the button.
Yeah. Kick it with your foot if you don't want to touch it or whatever. All right. Anyway, let's go on. The next one is from Sam. Sam says, hey, Jeff, who runs a comedy website with puppets and co-hosts. That's me. I would like to know which video game company is the most evil. We'll make human sacrifices to Dong and Cleese to bring them ill fortune. Best offering, Sam. Grant, do you have any input on this? Nope, not at all.
Nope. Most evil video game company. I don't know.
It's been a long time since I've seen any reports about EA and their QA practices. But if they're still doing what they used to do, EA will.
They're aligned with FIFA, and you hate FIFA now.
I really don't like FIFA very much, but there was an article that came out about 5-6 years ago that talked about how. So when you do video game development, there's crunch time, right, at the very end, where if you're trying to get your game out the door, you're trying to do bug fixes, right? So you're making a build of a video game, and then you're sending it to QA testers, and they're instantly trying to see whether bugs are fixed, and they're sending that info back, and then you just are doing that in a cycle, right? Devs are trying to fix it. The QA is trying to make sure that it's there. Well, what happens a lot of times is that you end up in a situation where QA can't leave their desks because they're getting constant builds. So you'll get these stories of people that are sleeping for like 2 hours under their desk during crunch time and then getting back up to keep working and working like 65 to 80 hours in a week or something like that. And it's because they don't allocate enough time in their development cycle at the end to do this in a leisurely fashion.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to pay people overtime like crazy than it is to try to actually schedule to actually meet out that time in a way that's going to work.
And who does this notoriously?
A lot of places. EA, though, is pretty bad, apparently, about it. A lot of those big corporations like Square and EA and Activision, well, not Activision, well, no, yes, Activision, are pretty bad also about like buying a company that makes a video game, and then once that game is out, it's pretty common practice in the video game industry to, if you're a publisher and you own a developer and they finish the game they're working on, to once it ships, dissolve that entity and just fire everybody entirely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you have the proprietary.
Because
shit.
it is less expensive to have a game company on your staff that is not doing something. So generally speaking, when the way game development happens is a studio doesn't ship a game and then immediately start working on whatever the next game that they're going to make is. What usually will happen is that they'll ship the game. Sometimes, like for some studios, they're in that kind of development cycle. But for smaller studios, a lot of times, they'll ship the game they've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years. But then the publisher can't afford to just have them sitting around and paying them for nothing. So they'll just dissolve them. And they'll either absorb them internally into different studios, or they'll just fire people. And there's a lot of really kind of cutthroat, horrible shit that happens in the video game world that's becoming more and more commonplace.
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard that Team Bondi, the guys that made L.A. Noire, that there was just horrible shit going down there.
Behemoth. They're the worst.
The Behemoth. Yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted to pick one.
I haven't. I mean, a lot of people got on Ken Levine and Irrational, but we talked about that. I don't think that it was Ken Levine who made the decision to shut down Irrational. Personally, I don't think that. We've just gotten used to it a lot now, right? Where studios will get dissolved and new studios will get formed constantly from their ashes.
It's their cruddy business practice, I guess.
Well, it's just the cheapest way that people know right now to make games.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that I tend to have a problem with for all business in all of America is that the focus of corporations is to make money. And so they will do whatever shitty thing to make money because that's their edict. They don't have feelings. They're not people with a conscience. An organization, like a corporation, is there to make money. So I'm reading this book right now. I just started it. That's called Salt, Sugar, Fat. Have you heard about that?
Mm-mm.
It's basically talking about how the food industry in America has come to where it is and why obesity is skyrocketing and how this stuff all got put together. It's kind of in the same realm as like the Omnivore's Dilemma or Fast Food Nation or something like that.
Okay.
And so you get into this sort of thing. You get into this thing where you go, do you hate a corporation because it will make money regardless of how many people that it tramples over or whatever? Because a corporation doesn't have a conscience, right? You have to inflict a conscience upon it. You have to make it detrimental for them to have no conscience, to be ruthless, right? Because otherwise they'll just do whatever. Anyway, back to this question. I haven't kept up with a lot of insider stuff with video games. Last I heard was EA. EA gets at the top of like worst companies in the U.S. lists that people vote on. And I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, I think, what was it, last year, the year before, they voted EA a worse company than, like, Citibank or, like, Bank of America.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you guys.
Those guys were pretty terrible.
They're worse. Trust me, those guys are worse.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. Next one comes in from Long Cow. It says, hey, Jeff and Grant, greetings from L.A. I just finished law school and need a vacation. All my friends are busy, so I'll be traveling alone on a road trip across America. This is my travel plan on Google Maps in case you're interested. I'll be passing through San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, and, of course, Austin. Can you recommend any places to see or food to eat? It can be in Austin or any other city. Thanks, and keep it fucking classy. Best, Long Cow.
Can I first recommend that we hang out? Hit us up while you're here, dude.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see where is.
Oh yeah, if we're here,
what already happened?
You're kind of here at like the worst time. Places to check out. Of course, you're gonna want to check out the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yep.
Come see some movies here. It's pretty awesome. Places to eat. Austin is loaded with places to eat.
Yep.
Best bet, check Yelp. But as far as great places to eat, the list is long.
That's a hell of a road trip you've got, dude. Look at that shit. He starts in L.A. and goes to like Vegas, and then to Yellowstone, and then
way up there,
and then back down around to Denver, and then through Dallas to Jackson, Mississippi, and then down to Louisiana. What is that? New Orleans, right? And then back into Texas, into Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and then back to Juarez.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And then up to Tucson, Phoenix, and then back to L.A. Yeah, that's a nice little loop.
Click on the Austin one. See if it has a time.
Let's see. Where was it? Phoenix.
Does it have a date?
I don't think that this map actually says that.
Okay.
No, it just. Yeah.
Well, good places to eat. Uchi and Uchiko are kind of our top rated for Asian. It's pricier. There's other great places along those lines, like Barley Swine is another.
I think if you're in Austin, I think that the main thing to focus him on would probably be barbecue and Tex-Mex, though, right?
Barbecue, Franklin barbecue.
In fact, but I don't think I've never been to Franklin, but the line outside is a stupid thing to me. So what I would suggest he do,
it's part of the experience. Grab a 6-pack and wait in line.
If you really are serious about your barbecue, drive up to Lockhart and take the challenge.
There you go. Okay.
That's your best bet, man.
I've never actually been there.
To Lockhart?
I haven't had their barbecue yet.
There's the four main places in Lockhart is Kreutz, Smitty's, Black's, and then I can never remember the last one.
And Black's is the one I often hear about.
Black's is my favorite barbecue that I've ever had, apart from weird offshoot. But the challenge goes basically to all four of those places in the same day and eat at all four of them. Yeah.
That's rough.
That is.
Okay, Tex-Mex. What do you recommend for Tex-Mex? I'm always conflicted on this.
I go to Chuy's, but I know a lot of people who don't like Chuy's.
I'm okay to Chuy's. My favorite place.
It's very Austin, though, right? With the Elvis stuff, and like the hubcaps and all the art and stuff.
I always like Trudy's, and actually my favorite place is this place called Santa Rita, which is kind of very similar to Trudy's. But
I think Trudy's is really overrated, personally.
I don't know. I feel like the food's consistent. I like a lot of the flavors they're doing. Okay. I think their Mexi martinis are pretty good.
Maudie's is another place if you're into cheese. Maudie's is all about the cheese.
They got a lot of cheese.
As far as let me think of other places in town. Would you recommend somebody from out of town go to El Reggio? It's a weird thing, right?
No, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't? Okay,
no.
Okay.
I mean, go check out Taco Cabana, I guess. But no, I don't know if that nationwide.
Go to El Reggio and get like a full roasted chicken and the onion and the green sauce and stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this place is like a shack, right? Like it's pretty assumed that there's like some money laundering or drug stuff going on there.
You can get a steak baked potato there. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Too.
I'm trying to think of. I mean, I like Michi Ramen here in town that we went to. We were talking about that the other week.
You can check out some bar places while you're here. Bar and food places like I love Easy Tiger. I think it's a great one.
Easy Tiger's great.
Pretzels, bunch of great meats, and an amazing selection of beer.
Yeah. Casino El Camino, the burgers at Casino El Camino.
Casino El Camino, great burgers. The Whippin' is a place that's like Indian food and craft beer. It's kind of neat. It's like this little quickie stop.
My sister's a really big fan of this place here in town called Foreign and Domestic that does very kind of like upscale, kind of Michelin star, like small portions, kind of thing.
It's really nice.
It's very good. It's expensive, but it's a little. It's a really crazy, interesting place.
Other places to check out, I'd say you want to check out Barton Springs, which is in the Zilker Park area.
You could definitely go over to the east side. You could go to the food trailer park, and then check out the bars on the over in Hipsterville.
If you're coming with a posse of friends, go to East 6, do a pub crawl.
Yeah.
Or go down to Rainy Street, do a pub crawl there. Those are
Don't
just
go to Rainy Street.
Parking's terrible, but for someone out of town, it'd be kind of fun.
I guess I'd send them to East 6 way faster than I'd send them to Rainy Street.
I like the bars, but there's atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah.
That we just don't want to deal with the parking and the crowd.
If you want daytime stuff, I mean, you can always go to the Capitol, right?
Yeah.
You go to Rogues Gallery Comics and Games in Round Rock, Texas,
or locally there's Austin Books.
Awesome Books, yeah,
which is a pretty great comic book store.
Yeah. Trying to think, you go to Pinballs while you're here. That's an interesting place. I mean, it's just an arcade, but
I don't know. I'm never as big into pinballs.
Yeah,
place.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, let us know when you're coming in town.
It's like, what do I do? Oh yeah, I drink. That's what
we go to a lot of bars. So if you wanted us to actually list out bars, it's always dependent upon where exactly you are,
right?
Because there's a ton of great bars all over.
Yeah, and keep in mind when you come to Austin that all of Austin loves to drink all of the time. So
yeah.
You can also see if anything's going on like depending on when he's here for like Auditorium Shores or something like that downtown.
Yeah.
Might not
see a Master Pancake show.
You can see the bats.
See the bats
flying out from under the bridge.
That's really cool.
I don't think I've ever seen the bats personally.
I've seen it a couple times. I think it's neat.
All right. We got a few more. I'm going to go ahead and skip.
Goodness, that person wrote a book.
Yep. Next one comes in from Martin. Martin says, "Hi guys, Martin from Denmark here with another question. Recently got fired from the best job I've ever had, working in a factory. As a working horse, I've had many jobs, but this one was the best by far. Great pay, great coworkers, great working hours, and a varied and challenging job. I was fired because I had skipped work 3 times due to my problems with insomnia. The second time I was told that I shouldn't do it again, so the third time I lied and left a message saying I had the flu. When they called back, I told them the truth. In the meantime, I bought some Baldrian, which is a natural sleeping pill, which helped me sleep 10 hours. So next day I came to work on time, did an hour of work, and was then fired on the spot with no warning. The reason was that I had lied the previous day, and they didn't care about me explaining to them how I had personally improved, even by having my mom call me up in the morning to make sure I got up. So my question is, have you guys experienced something similar with insomnia, or what do you guys think about this situation? Sorry for the long email. Hope things are well with Jason's dogs. Cheers, Martin from Denmark."
First off, it sounds like you got fired for a medical condition, which is kind of rough.
Maybe. Kind of depends. I mean,
insomnia is kind of one of those tough ones to prove, I guess.
Yeah. It's having been on the... I have never seen people in my life fired more often than for tardiness. That tends to be really at the top of the list.
It
with
is an
employers.
important thing if you're going to work at a place that you be there.
Yeah.
That's just one of those ones.
Yeah. And I could tell you that... yeah, I've never been fired for that. I've been fired for other stuff, but I've never been fired for because I'm one of those people that I'll sleep for like 2 hours and then go to work. Like, there's certain cases where you shouldn't go to work, right? You sleep for 2 hours, you go to work at a retail job, and you're just irritable and cranky, and you fucking hate everything, and you're just like, fuck it. You know, you should have just stayed home, but
yeah, I've never been fired. I got laid off actually recently. And that was just they had to liquidate our department because they didn't have work for us anymore.
Yeah.
But I was working part-time already, working from home, so it was like, okay, it was a pretty easy transition for me.
For Martin, I'd say, as far as this job thing goes, I mean, like, it's shitty getting fired from a job. I kind of understand why your employer did that, though. If it was, I mean, I've had employers that have been like, if you're late twice, you're fucking out of here. You know, that are very usually punctuality is one of the biggest things in their list, and they're at the top of their list. But what I would suggest is if you do have problems sleeping, try to find a job that accommodates that. Like
something that has a little bit more of a flexible schedule. Yeah.
Right. Like when I worked at Dell, I started there on the morning shift, but by the time I left, I was on second shift, which meant that I went in at like noon and got off of work at like 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I worked third shift for a while where I go in at work at 8 p.m. and then get off at like 6 a.m. and then sleep during the daytime. You know, I find that generally speaking, most of the time that I've talked with people who have sleeping issues, it's because their natural circadian rhythms, you know, you don't want to go to sleep at 9 to get up, right? You want to go to sleep at 3 and you want to get up at like noon. That's what feels natural to you. And there's actually studies that have been done that show that that's like, it's better for you to try to sleep when you're tired than it is to force yourself to go to sleep when you're not tired and then not sleep enough. And it's way harder to change your schedule. So sorry about the one job, but
yeah, maybe something better will come out of the fact that you might get something that accommodates your insomnia.
I'll tell you.
Do you ever have insomnia?
Oh, I'm constantly. I didn't used to. I used to sleep like a baby. I sleep at any time for whatever reason. But now between caffeine and the stress of running the website, I have bad dreams a lot of times about not getting stuff done for the website.
Anxiety
and
dreams.
It wakes me up.
Yeah.
If I go to sleep at any point before I'm just completely exhausted, I will wake up after 3 hours and not be able to go back to sleep. So
damn.
That's why I a lot of times end up staying up till like 5 or 6 in the morning before I go to bed. And it's hard. It's weird because, like I said, the first, say, 30 years of my life, just go to sleep through the night, sleep 8 to 10 hours, no problem. Not
That's
anymore.
what I do, except for the 8 to 10 hours. But I lay down, I just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
I will tell you the story. I'll tell you a quick story, though. I think we're pretty much going to end up right around 2 hours. But so one time when I was 16 years old, I worked at a Subway, right?
Okay.
And I was scheduled to work on a Saturday, but on this Friday night, I went out with my friends. And there's another part of the story that I'll tell a different day to keep it shorter. But I had ended up, when I was a teenager, purchasing a half of a tab of ecstasy. And I had saved it. I hadn't taken it the night that I got it. I ended up putting it in my pocket and saving it. So this one night, my friends were having a party and everybody was hanging out, and I decided I'm gonna try drugs for the first time in my life. So I did, and it was great, and I loved it because drugs are rad. I mean, you know, not if they destroy your life and you fucked up and all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but like if you just take some drugs and have a nice time and then just not be like, I need more drugs, you know, not crack or cocaine or anything, but so this stuff was really strong, and the effect of ecstasy is it makes you really like everything, makes your emotions really supercharged, makes you really like bubbly, and you just smiling and happy and shit like this. Mm-hmm. So I spent the entire night hanging out with my friends, and the next day I had to go to work, and I was coming down off of the ecstasy, but I was still kind of propped up because it was really strong what I'd taken. It was the first drugs I'd ever taken. So I went to work, and I was working with this woman that I've never worked with before, and I was so happy and bubbly and talkative that I told her that I'd taken drugs the night before, right? And she was like, well, you're not still on drugs? And I was like, I don't know. I could probably feel just like a little bit of it or whatever. Now, my boss at that time was this woman who was like super, super, super uptight. Like there was one day where there was nothing to do. Like I'd mop the floor, and there was nothing to do, and I was just standing there. And she's like, "Go mop the floor," and I was like, "I just finished mopping the floor.
Yeah,
nobody's even walked on the floor that I've mopped." And she's like, "Then go do it again, because you're not just going to stand here. It's one of those if you got time to leave, you got time to."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh," made me hate authority, right?" So I worked with this woman. I did my job. I was actually very happy to do my job. I was really interested in what the customers wanted because I was still kind of high. And then I went home, and then like 2 hours later, my boss called me and was like, "You're fired." And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was like, I thought I freaked out, but the next job that I got was like 3 times as much money, and I didn't have to handle cold cuts for a living. So,
yeah.
And I was like, meanwhile, you're managing a Subway with your sad life, and I'm already making more than you, even though I'm like 10 years younger than you, because I just went and put my hands on a keyboard, and suddenly the 90s paid me far too much money to just put my hands on a keyboard. So that was the story about me getting fired. And we got one more question here, and this one comes from Ryan. Ryan says, Dear Ragers, recently a handful of trailers and announcements have come out for certain video game movies, Sly Cooper, Ratchet & Clank, and Sonic. The one thing that stands out from these announcements is the respective companies actually have involvement with the production. Granted, these are CG films based on kid-friendly franchises, but that still seems like a bold new move for the video game companies to bring a real hand into it. What do you guys think? Will this usher in the first wave of good game films, or be at best mediocre cash grabs? Hail Dongacles, Ryan. Are you saying, Ryan, that Mortal Kombat 1 is not a good movie? Because I might have to disagree with you. Or what about Street Fighter with Raul Julia? That's a classic of...
No, they're all bad.
Oh, okay.
Every video game movie so far is bad.
Okay. I thought the original Resident Evil with Mila was a fun movie.
Okay. You did think that.
I did.
Okay. I don't.
Okay.
But, I mean...
Do you know what he's talking about here?
They're making, direct-to-internet little movies?
Well, for the Ratchet & Clank movie, I think it might actually get some kind of limited theatrical release. But basically,
Really?
the same company that's been doing the cutscenes has now created a movie out of the cutscenes.
Yeah, I would assume it's probably going to be a cash grab until they prove otherwise.
I have much higher hopes for these than I do for any other video game movie property. Even the Dead Rising we were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, the people that have been making the Ratchet & Clank cutscenes for years, making a 2-hour movie out of these really clever cutscenes, is more potential to me than, like, we're going to take the zombie property and we're going to give it to these people and they're going to do this thing. I think it has a lot of potential, and I think that it could turn out to be really good, because I think that letting the people who have been telling the cinematic stories of the video games adapt their own property into a 90-minute to 2-hour movie or whatever, they're going to have more respect for the subject material than
they're going to get it better.
Right. Then you give it to some Hollywood guy who's like, well, we need to replace this guy with a robot because that doesn't make any sense and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, I don't know. My initial reaction is that, like, just because you can do a video game doesn't mean you can do a movie.
Well, no, this is very true, but I think that the difference here is that these companies have video games that have very cinematic, story-driven cutscenes in them. So, for my money, it's if you can make 20 minutes worth of compelling cutscenes, that's essentially like making a short film, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I saw the trailer for the Ratchet & Clank movie. They played it at E3 this year. I thought it looked really fantastic. So, but I don't know. I think it could be really great, Ryan. Yeah, well, we will see once they come out. And that, unfortunately, is all the time that we have for today. Grant, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So if you have questions, send them to mail@rageselect.com. It's mail@rageselect.com. And we will see y'all next week with another episode of the Rage Select Podcast.
Or get into Rate Select and, leave this to the TV Dudes site and go to rateselect.com and just start discussing Rate Select with us.